For everyone here today, if I haven't met you, my name is Jena Gardner, and I'm the horn professor here at Western Illinois University. I'm really excited. This is my third time hosting the Western Horn Festival and the second time doing it online. So hopefully it's the last time we have to be completely online. But one of the great things about today is that we're all able to warm up at home, and a lot of people are coming to us from many different places and not just here in Macomb. Yeah, some in the back of their car, for example. Yeah, okay. So today's session is going to be just like how it would normally be at the Horn Festival. We're going to start out with a group warm up. Unfortunately, we don't get to hear each other play, one of the byproducts of Zoom. But it's always wonderful for me to hear how other people warm up, what kinds of exercises or activities they do as their warm up. And I'm always experimenting with my own. I can't say I do the same one every day, but I certainly like to incorporate different ideas. So I hope that everyone will come away with new ideas for warm up in this wonderful session presented by the Rona Quartet. So let me just say a little bit about that. The Rona Quartet is made up of some wonderful people that I have had the pleasure of playing with, I think all of you at some point or another, in the Chicago area. And not only are they wonderful musicians, they're great people, great teachers, and have created this great project during COVID. So hopefully they'll talk about that. If you have questions for them, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'll kind of moderate that as we go along this morning. So I'm going to turn it over to whoever our first speaker is.
I think that was going to be me. Hi, my name's Joanna Schulz. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you, Jena, so much for putting this together. You're going to be a resource for everyone whenever they want to put together any sort of online content from going on from here. I want to talk about very beginnings of any warm-up or practice session. And I like to start a lot of that actually without playing the horn. Keep it in your hands if it's comfortable, because I think that's part of being comfortable with your instrument. So when we practice articulation, we practice long tones, quality of sound, we practice rhythm, we practice range. But one of the things that I found really successful with a lot of my students is practicing our state of mind and the way we perceive our bodies. So I think it's really important whenever you sit down to practice, and I know how hard it's been in this last year to separate your practice space from your living space and your working space and your play space. So find some sort of signal for yourself that indicates, I am going to sit down and practice now. I think one of the other things that's really helpful for, and has been for my students, if you have a lot of pressing things that are going to be happening and you're trying to keep that all straight in your mind before you begin your practice session, write them down so you're not constantly reminding yourself what those things are during your practice session. You guys can just show of hands for those of you who have screens up. How many of you sat down in a practice session and felt like, I'm super great, I'm ready to go, and then you struggle for the first 15 minutes just trying to like find yourself and what the heck is going on? Yeah, and I think people who maybe don't have their screens there's probably some hands going up as well. So I think a big part of that is really identifying, I'm set aside this 15 minutes because sometimes that's all we have. If you have that glorious hour and a half all to yourself in a quiet and beautiful resonant space, that's great. Make sure you can utilize every minute of that by being mentally in the right space. I mean, it takes a little bit longer to talk through it right now, but it will eventually become something that you can do in 1 or 2 minutes at the beginning of your practice and really make that first 15 minutes of your practice as productive as the second 15 hour, whatever goes on. So identify that practice space and your time, clear your mind, clear your mental space. Now, unfortunately, all of this thinking gets us very much in our head, and playing the horn is a physical exercise. So I like to take some time then to sit down and breathe. Just gentle breathing, nothing giant, big. We don't want to shock our systems into like picking up the horn and we're going to have some big sounds happening really soon. So just gentle through the nose breathing. Take a couple breaths. Sip your coffee. I always keep hot water with me that's one of my practice time signals. Breathing through your nose. And then we start working on becoming more aware of our bodies. So as you breathe in, I want you to think a little bit about your left heel. Breathing in and just imagining what your heel feels like. Now maybe bring it to your right elbow. Imagine what it would feel like if someone were to touch or scratch your elbow right now as you're breathing. Okay, the next one, we're going to become a little bit more active with our breathing. As you take in a big breath through your nose, this time you're going to let it out through your mouth, and you're going to let all of your attention go to the weight of your legs. And this time, as you're breathing in, at your own pace, feel that scratchy spot on the back of your right shoulder that you always have to, lean up against a door frame to scratch or get someone else to scratch for you, right? You know what that one feels like? And then you've got another couple of deep breaths, and I want all of your weight to go into your fingers. We're going to be using those fingers. We want awareness in our hands. You can feel maybe your right cheekbone, the tip of your nose. As your breathing is getting deeper, you might be getting a little bit of tingling in your nose with deeper and deeper breaths. And make sure your eyes are open at this point, because now we're going to be getting into a little bit more active breathing. Breathing in for a count of 3, 2, 3, out for a count of 4. And with each breath now, I want you to sink your weight more and more into your lower back and into your hips. So much of playing, we think about keeping your head up, keeping your chest up and open, that we start losing that sense of feeling grounded. Right now, your body should start to feel a little bit more awake. Feel your fingers, feel your toes, feel your shoulders. Now, we've also cleared our mind and for our own practice space. Hopefully, if you do this every day at the beginning of your practice session, you'll be able to get your body to this place of, if it's calm that you have now, or maybe you're feeling slightly more energized, being able to recall this sensation quickly is going to help you in those moments when you're performing and maybe there's a little bit of nerves are setting in. That one little nose breath, you might be able to start recalling this feeling of being aware of your body, clearing your mind of mental space so that you can make all the beautiful sounds that you want to make and share with other people. Well, these are the first steps that I've been using for warm-ups with my students, and they all seem to be a little bit calmer by the end of this and a little bit more ready to jump into a practice session without outside stuff bouncing around their heads. So now I think we're about ready to play, and Jeremiah is going to take things away and talk about practicing in unusual situations.
Yes, definitely unusual situations. So I'm coming to you from the back of my car in South Bend, Indiana. I'm on my way to rehearsal today. And I know we all get stuck in situations where we can't necessarily bring out our horn right away, but we want to get that warm up in. So what better way to start than with just the mouthpiece? So I often start my regular warm-up sessions with a lot of mouthpiece work. And it's a great tool because we don't have all that tubing to work out. There's not that 20 feet in front of us that we have to blow the air through. We just get to do the buzzing with the mouthpiece. So we can really connect the notes and connect the air. So what I'd like to start us off with is some scales going downward and just connect the notes as much as possible, really glissing basically in between each note. And what I'm going to use to get my pitches, I'm just going to use, my tuner from, in this case, my iPad, because my phone is being used for the Zoom. And so I'm going to sustain a note. We're going to work our way through a few scales, just major scales, and I'll give us a tempo and we'll go down. So just as an example, here's our first note. Hopefully you can hear that. And we're going to go down. This is our G major scale. So just in quarter notes, here we go. 1, 2, ready. Great. Now we're going to go down a half step. Now, it takes a lot of air on the mouthpiece, so breathe wherever you need to. We're going to go a little slower this time. See how you can extend your breathing. Here we go. Ready? really try to get that air moving down there on those low notes. Open everything up. Here we're going 1/2 step lower. And good. How's that going for you? Feeling it in your head maybe a little bit if you're breathing a lot? All right, here we go. 1, 2, ready? Yeah, those low notes, nice and hard on the mouthpiece, right? Get that air moving through there. And really try to anchor here for those low notes to stabilize that. All right, here we go. We're gonna do a couple more. Ready? Good. Next one. 1, 2, ready. Good. You should feel things starting to get relaxed and loosened up there. Gonna do 2 more. 2, ready. Great. Last one. This is C major, so we're going from middle C down to low C. You could always start higher if you want to, depending on what you feel comfortable with. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. Great. So now I'm gonna, yeah,
Can I pop in with a question?
sure.
I remember hearing you warm up once, and you have a notoriously wonderful whole register, but especially low register. Can you remind me what you can play all the way down to, like a pedal B flat, or what is it? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I usually warm up when I'm doing it on the horn. I start with low scales and I go all the way down to pedal, like below pedal C, the A or A flat
Wow,
when I'm
that's
warming up.
amazing. And he sounds
So,
good doing it. It's not for everybody. Jeremiah, can you also talk maybe a little bit about, I've noticed that when I buzz, and sometimes I see students struggle with it, especially in the low register, that a lot of times the embouchure is hard to maintain. Can you talk about how you do that? You have such strong corners and chin and all that good stuff.
yeah, a lot of it is exactly that, the chin and the corners. So as I'm going down, I just let the jaw come down and out as you go down. And you're kind of stretching your corners a little bit, but make sure they stay firm. So you've got that control from the corners. The more we try to control it here, the temptation is to push this out, which is going to give us a narrow sound. And it's actually going to prevent you from getting a nice solid sound because you're actually buzzing a thicker area. So the more you can control it here, keep your lips basically the same, but you're opening up on the inside and stretching things down. It may feel like it's a whole lot, but it's actually probably not that much. But experiment with how much that feels comfortable, just going down and a little bit out. We don't want to be like totally out, but just let it. Whoa. Think about singing low notes. If you're trying to sing those low notes, your chin isn't going to stay up here because you're going to cut off that air. So think about that when you're playing those low notes. So thanks, Jenna. That was a great question. I'm going to move on to now what I do next, usually on the horn, but also on the mouthpiece, some airflow studies by Vincent Chikowitz, who was a trumpet player in the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and also directed the Millar Brass Ensemble for a number of years. I actually knew these exercises before I knew who he was, and when I finally got to meet him as a member of the Millar Brass Ensemble. So these are nice, great airflow studies. They just get that air connected in a different way. Real nice and simple. I think Jena could put it in the comments for anybody who wants to look at it. Pretty easy to follow by ear, but if you want to look at it, you can take a look at that. So we're going to start on that same G, nice mid-register, getting everything nice and connected. So I'm going to play the pitch to start us off. And here's the pattern. So I'll play it once for you for anybody who wants to just listen to it. So we're incorporating these half and whole steps at the top and then an arpeggio at the end of it. And that will get those glisses really working through there. So we'll go not too slow because we want to try to do it all in one breath as much as we can. So here we go. 1, 2, ready. Great. Another half step down, same pattern. Ready. Great. Another half step down. I'm going to go a little faster as we go lower and need more air. Ready, 2, 3. Great. Another couple here. 1, 2, ready. Another half step. 2, 3. Good. We'll do one more. 2, 3. Great. Now, if you're looking at the page, it's got another section. Section 2 is an expansion of those. So he wrote a whole book of these flow studies, Mr. Chikowitz did. And so they just expand into the upper register as he goes. Now, they're originally written for trumpet, so they may not go as low as on the written page, but we can certainly transpose them. We're horn players. We can do any key, right? So we're just going to do the first 2 lines of section 2 that just extend it a little bit. So here, I'm just going to play the first one so we can hear it. All right, here we go. We're going to go pretty fast so we can get it in one breath. 2, 3. Great. And then you could transpose that in all the keys that you feel like, both up and down. So now the next one just expands it a little bit more. So here's what that one's going to sound like. So I want you to take notice of your air and then also your embouchure. Try not to move the embouchure very much at all. It's all about that air getting the buzz going and the buzz faster for those high notes. So here we go on that second line of section 2. 2, 3. Great. So remember, anything that you do in your warm-up on the horn, you could do on the mouthpiece. So if you're stuck in the car in traffic and you feel like you're going to be late to a rehearsal, you need that warm-up time, have your mouthpiece handy. I know some people have a mouthpiece just in their glove compartment or wherever in their car. So have that handy to start off your warm-up and feel ready by the time you get to rehearsal. So now I am going to hand it over to Miss Mary Jo Neher.
before Mary Jo takes over, I'll just mention for our audience, actually, we have a connection to Mr. Chickowitz here at Western. Our trumpet professor studied with him and has done a lot of contributions to his books and his kind of in his homage. So he's a wonderful person.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Jo, and I just wanted to mention real quick, we're going to talk a little bit about Rona and how we got started and what we've been doing at the end of this warm-up. But it's important to note maybe that we have not been an established group for even a year. And I mention that only because we have never done a group warm-up before. And I mention that because what you're going to see is we all have the same ideas and concepts, which I'm discovering as well, which I think is fascinating, right? So how Joanna talked about air is one of the first things I think about when I warm up. And we actually did discuss this. We talked about segments, but we didn't rehearse any of this. And so I'm sitting here kind of dumbfounded happily. So that we all have like the same idea, the same kind of concepts. I think that speaks to the efficacy of what we're trying to get across. So I just thought I'd point that out. Jeremiah talked about the mouthpiece, and he's right. In fact, we have a colleague that used to play with us in Millar that kept a second mouthpiece in her dashboard, actually right in front, underneath the speedometer, so she could warm up, which I think is funny. But yeah, I tell my students the same thing. The horn is just an amplifier, right? It literally amplifies whatever is happening between our mouth and our embouchure and this little piece of metal. So often, I'm sure Jen has talked about this, or if you've gone to other master classes, when there's an issue and you can't really get your mind or your mouth around it, it's easiest to actually take the horn out of it and just go to the mouthpiece. So I think we all pretty much breathe when we get ready to warm up. I think we all pretty much use our mouthpiece. I'm a creature of habit. I have used the same warm up for, I'm going to age myself here, 25 years maybe. 20 years? How long have I been out of? Yeah, 20 years. I've tried other warm-ups. For me, it doesn't work. I say that because I always like to encourage people to find something that works for you. And if it feels great, stay with it. And if it doesn't, try something new. There's not one fix for everything. So Jenna might like to experiment every 6 months, or you could be like me and like I literally do the same warm-up every day. It makes me feel great. The one thing I do kind of incorporate in and out is a mouthpiece exercise that I learned when I first started playing horn. My teacher called it orange juice sips. Has anybody heard of this technique? Has anyone heard of orange juice sips? A few people. Okay. So I had no idea what it was, but I grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, and I really, really wanted to play the trumpet. And when I went, my band teacher at that time in 5th grade was a horn player. And so I said, Mr. Donaldson, I really want to play trumpet. He said, okay, Mary Jo. And he gave me a trumpet mouthpiece and asked me to buzz. And apparently I set up more like a horn player, right? Like most of my upper lip. And so we went through and talked about some things. And so, thankfully against his better judgment, he allowed me to start on horn. But he wanted to make sure that I had a proper setup. How many of you have struggled with maybe not the most efficient setup, or maybe you struggle sometimes with your mouthpiece moving? Has anybody had that feeling? Like you put your mouthpiece up and you're like, wait, that's not where it goes. Like what? So these orange juice sips I found over the years really help solidify where my embouchure is. A side note is every time I've shared this exercise with friends, colleagues, students, their high register has improved. I don't understand the correlation. I'm interested if any of you try this, if it helps. I'd like to think it's because it's really solidifying those muscles. You're putting the mouthpiece on the mouth in the same place every time, and it's just helping to build everything up. So what is it? So Jeremiah talked a little bit about anchoring, and we all grew up at the same university with Gail, and she's a real big anchorer, right? And so I'm going to get in here. So we're all going to anchor right under here. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Some nods, yeah. So what orange juice sips are, I want you to go ahead and put your mouthpiece up to your face on relaxed lips. I don't want anyone to like pucker up or anything. And I just want you to kind of feel around. Is this where you would normally put your mouthpiece? And then you might buzz a note. I don't care what note. Let's just buzz and make sure that when you actually are buzzing and engaging the mouthpiece, that this is the sound, this is how it feels. Great. Then what you're going to do without taking the mouthpiece off is you're just going to tilt it down. So this is kind of hard to show. Actually, on Zoom, this is great because you can all zoom in. If we were in an auditorium, there's no way. So what I'm going to do is on relaxed lips is I'm really just slowly going to pull my mouthpiece down. I'm going to keep the rim anchored right here. And I'm literally going to take sips of orange juice. So I want everyone to do this about 10 times slowly. What you're looking for is we want to make sure, we don't want to go quick. We want to make sure we're bringing the mouthpiece up the same place every time. And if you want to, every couple sips, you can buzz. Make sure you're in the right spot. So let's try that. And you can buzz all around. It seems like such a simple thing, but I can almost guarantee you, if you incorporate 25 to 50 orange juice sips every day for the next week, you will notice a marked improvement. Again, I'm not sure why, but I find this exercise to be helpful when I feel out of sorts, right? And who hasn't felt out of sorts in the last year with all the various playing or not playing? So that is something that I'll often incorporate with something like Jeremiah sharing with his buzzed warm up. So if I'm feeling kind of out of sorts, I just want to kind of anchor myself or remind myself of where that mouthpiece goes, I'll do that. Now I said I'm a creature of habit, so I'm going to go ahead and share my warm up. And, uh-oh, why is it not letting me? Let's see here. We did this last night and it worked, right?
If you want to email it to me, I could drop it in the chat or whatever is easiest.
Yeah, let me just do that to you real quick. Let's see.
Okay. And while you do that, some of you may know this. You mentioned Gail Williams. I've seen her do this exercise where she continues the buzz. So she'll go kind of like that, except she can do it all over the horn and insanely well. So okay, I'll look for that email here.
Let's see. So Katie wrote, I think this exercise is helping me isolate that really supple inner bottom lip. I could see how that would help the high register. Yeah, it's amazing. It just kind of focuses on it. And again, because the horn is an amplifier, everything that's happening inside our mouth and mouthpiece is such on a tiny scale. It really helps us kind of isolate better. So I'm a creature of habit. I use the same warm up for years. And it's from this book, also known as the Bible, right? And I also would like to point out that this is my aunt's copy of this book, and she got it when she was a student at WIU with Dr. Faust's predecessor. So it's very near and dear to my heart, and I still use it and has some of her markings in it. But yeah, I use the Farkas warm up. So I use, yeah, Jenna shared part of it there. So we start on page 32. And what I like about this, especially after having done orange juice sips, is we're going to reinforce the idea of taking that mouthpiece on and off our face and putting it back in the right place, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put a metronome on. And we're going to go down to about 100. And what I also like about the Farkas and why I think I've done it for so many years is it doesn't need a lot of thought, right? You slap a valve down, you put some air through, and you go. And it kind of takes away all the extra stuff you might think about, and it lets you really concentrate on what's happening between yourself and the mouthpiece, which is your air and buzzing, right? So let's just try this together. And the important things with this is metronome, which I'll talk about in a second, and to take the mouthpiece completely off your mouth at the end so we can practice putting it back on for that next line, okay? Can you all hear that metronome? Yeah, okay. I need a mouthpiece. There we go. 1, 2, 3. So, I have water, of course. We're getting that nice air going, but we're also utilizing what we just practice, which is taking that mouthpiece on and off, which is so important. How many of you guys feel like you sound great 3 notes into something? So like maybe the first 2 notes are kind of like, right? So I feel like an exercise like this really gets our air moving and our tongues in the right spot, combined with that orange juice sip to really solidify where we're playing. Does the pitch stay the same when buzzing without the mouthpiece or change? I'm not understanding that question. Jenna, do you understand? Maybe I'm not.
I think, yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
Well, when you were showing this, the tilting orange juice sips, but then continuing to buzz as you pulled away, do you maintain that same pitch, like try to force it, or do you let it change?
I don't keep buzzing.
Yeah, so that's a variation I was saying that I've seen Gail Williams do. And, I think that, people have different things about free buzzing too. So I wouldn't like force that, but I think you could experiment with it. I think that there's a little bit of a different lip tension that happens when you contact the mouthpiece. So when I do it, I just kind of allow it to change. And, that's more of just maybe like an advanced version of the orange juice sips.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I think to Jenna's point too, it's a great example of how we all have basically a same idea and concept, but we all have our own take. And honestly, again, I'm going to age myself. In the last 25 years of playing, my needs have changed. So there are times where I might need to remind myself and, continue buzzing off and on. And then there's other times I don't. And I just encourage everyone to be open to change. If something isn't working, you may need something different, right? So the first page of the exercise, really super simple. I very much, pretty much demand my students use a metronome while warming up. And this is something I've discovered literally in the last 5 years. You can do you'll hear people warming up without metronomes all the time, but I find it holds us accountable. Why would we need to be accountable? Any ideas? You can chime in. What would a metronome do for us in our warm up that would hold us accountable and set us up for a good day? No one? John.
I think it's important. I think it's important to be able to control when you make the changes, and a metronome helps you do that.
Yes. So I found in my own practice the days that I do not use a warm up. So if we go to the next page of the practice, where we're literally just doing open series, valve down, you can do that. You'll sound great. I challenge you to put a metronome on and do it in time. And what you're going to discover, at least for me, is I like to think of it as when you're going onto an on-ramp, right? We all drive. And if the on-ramp is banked correctly, you know how much gas to give and how much gas to not put on, and your car easily goes around, right? We've all had that feeling like, woo, I hit that on-ramp just perfect. I think our air is that way. So we always need great air, but do we need the same air for maybe a high F as we do for F on the staff? No. And when we're slurring, we don't necessarily need the same air. And so we're all going to be different. And so what I love about using a metronome is that it forces us to really learn about ourselves and what type of air we need. Is it fast air? Is it slower air? So again, it's something that works for me. I put a metronome on. And when I do that, I tend to have a much more successful day with conductors giving prep beats. Why? Because I've established that accountability first thing in the morning, understanding my air, understanding how I'm breathing that day kind of changes some days, right? Some days are a little easier than others. And so when I set myself up that way, I find it much more easy, more relaxing, and more secure when I'm on stage with a conductor or with my Rona colleagues, that I know what I need today. I've already established that. So just real quick, because we're going to go to John in a second, let's just look at that second exercise. And again, so I'll put on my metronome. For me, I'm going to do 120. And we're just going to go, you take it at whatever pace you want, okay? And I haven't warmed up today, so you're hearing the real MJ. So I'm going to go, ya da dee dee dee, right? Right? And the other thing is I didn't get the top note. I actually don't care. What I'm looking for is to get that air moving. But something else I'll often tell my students is if you're having a rough day and things are tight, like I was up till 12:30 last night recording for our concert next week. So I had maybe 5 hours recovery before my kids woke me up this morning. I'm a little tight. So I would probably sit down and do this warm up, really take my time. But if you're struggling, start with the 2-3 combination, right? Start lower. I had a teacher and he had such a great saying was start with what you can do and go to what you can't. There's no reason to beat your head up over something that you can't do. Start with what you can and then figure out, oh, if I stretch this way, if I stretch that way, if I go faster, if I go slower, does that give me some success? And once you get some of those little successes, you can build on it. So, yep, creature of habit, metronome, air. I'm going to hand it off to John.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I'm talking about the warm-up using natural overtones here, and I wanted to show you my natural horn, and the Farkas warm-up actually is really based upon various valve combinations that relate to the natural horn. Now, why would you, when you're doing overtone exercises, don't try to correct the intonation, because you want to feel like it's smooth going back and forth. So right now I have my F crook on, and I call it a crook because it can accept my mouthpiece and go into the horn. Now, in natural horn construction, there's also something called a coupler. And a coupler is too big on both ends for me to be able to put a mouthpiece into it. So in order for it to work, I have to couple it with a crook to increase the length. So this is what I would call a minor third coupler. And when I put it with my F horn, with my F crook, that puts me in the key of D because it drops the pitch a minor third. So let's say I'm doing the very first of the Farkas warm-ups, and I'm doing it in D right now. And I skip the third because I don't have that down in that register. And for me to try to get that by closing my hand, that's a really unstable note, so I just skipped it for you. But so I want you to know that when you've got a natural horn, you change the length by changing the crook. So this is what I would call an E crook, so that when I play an E, so by changing crooks, let's say the F crook is equivalent to the open fingering on the F horn. The E crook is equivalent to the second valve on the F horn. The E flat crook is equivalent to the first valve on the F horn. The third valve is equivalent to the D crook on the F horn, or 1 and 2. They're interchangeable. 2 and 3 is equivalent to the D flat crook. 1 and 3 is equivalent to is equivalent to your C crook, and then 1, 2, and 3 is equivalent to, if they had it, your C sharp crook. And if we're talking about the B flat crook or the B flat alto crook that I would use is equivalent to open on the B flat horn. If I'm using the A crook, it's equivalent to the second valve on the B flat horn. The thumb 1 is equivalent to the A flat crook on the thumb 1 and 2, or thumb 3 is equivalent to the G crook. thumb 2 and 3 is equivalent to the F sharp crook, and thumb 1 and 3 is equivalent to open on the F horn. So on the exercises that I have on the overtone exercises, I only write them in C, but my advice, depending on what your goals are for the day, is that if you want to warm up from the center and go down, I would use the fingerings open on the first exercise, then go to second valve, go down first valve, and go down chromatically. So I took the exercises here from Barry Tuckwell's Playing the Horn. So what I would do is I did not write the fingering combinations on the page of the natural horn overtone exercises, but I would note open, second, 1, 1 and 2, so you know what order you're doing them in. And then I would, once I'm going down, then I would go up and I would go thumb 2 and 3, thumb 3, and go up chromatically. So I'm warming gradually down the low notes and I'm warming up to the higher notes. So that same, let's say I'm doing this one. I go up by half step.
John, could we do some of these along with you, maybe, while you're demonstrating?
So let's get the natural horn overtone exercises. We're going to do all of these on the F horn, so with an open fingering. And let's do it at 120. If somebody can set the metronome so I don't have to set it up. Here's our count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now if we put our second finger down, then we're going to do them as horn and E. I'm taking a look at the time. Let's go down. We'll do the one in E. We'll do the one in E flat. So second valve and first valve. And then maybe we'll just go up a half step and do it on thumb 2 and 3. So we're just going to do 3 more. This is second valve. 1, 2, 3. I don't think we're going to do any more of those because I want to talk about 2 more things. So the next thing I have is a pitch bending exercise, and you might want to start on a G, and then just buzz a half step. Can we do that together? So we're bending down a half step. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to go to E. Now, I put it back in the instrument. This is what I'm going to do is I am not going to finger the half step down. I'm going to bend it by relaxing my embouchure and letting my air get thicker and pretending I'm a trombone player that can only glissando a half step. So it's 1, 2, 3. E. C. Now I've got a question for you. Why are pitch bending exercises helpful? Any ideas? Jennifer?
I like to think of flexing the aperture.
Okay. But I think it also helps you learn how to relax and get into the center of the sound. And if you ever play the Beethoven horn sonata on natural horn, you've got to be able to play what we call a factitious note down a fourth below that low C. And actually, the lower you go, the easier it is to bend the pitch farther. I started on G because for me, it's really hard to try to bend. It's really hard for me to bend that note down a full half step. So the last thing I'd like to talk about are how you can use overtones to work on lip trill preparation. So I'm actually disappointed I didn't put that B flat and more exercises on the sheet, but can we do this together? 1, 2, 3. And you do that exercise again with the fingers that we've gotten, and you go down by half steps, and you go up by half steps. And it's a really nice way to warm up. One thing I also really love doing with natural overtones or glissandi. Like I like to take the G, starting on the written G with 1 and 3. So I'll play it as eighth notes through the scale, and then I'll do a couple of glissandi just to help loosen up and get that air moving. And then I go up by half steps. And I can take that as high as I if you go to the B flat horn, you can actually get above your high C and get that working too. Any questions?
Thank you, John. Yeah, John, that's wonderful. And I love that you're talking about natural horn. It's so connected to what we do fundamentally on the valved horn. So we're getting close to the end of this session, and I wanted to just have Mary Jo speak for a second about the quartet. And so you can find out more. They have a performance later today as part of the festival, but it won't be live. So go ahead and anything you want to say.
So first of all, thank you so much for having us. I'm going to talk really quick about the group. All four of us have known each other. Some of us have known each other for over 20 years, again, dating ourselves. But when the pandemic hit last fall, much like with everything else, music stopped. We had no work. In a very low state of mind, I posted on Facebook and asked who wanted to get together in my backyard to play. And I never would have thought to put a horn quartet together. But these guys all chomped at the bit. So to make a long story short, we got together merely for us, merely so we could feel good and feel normal. And gosh, did that really help. And what we noticed by the third rehearsal was that the lay person was coming around and it was helping them. And people in Chicago were asking us to play certain tunes. And so we thought, let's go play this in the park. And it was such a great experience. A reporter from the Sun-Times came by and wanted to do a story on us. We had no name. I had us in our text thread as Rona, just as a joke. And so that's the name of our group, Rona Quartet. What's nice about this group is we got together with zero expectations except to make music. And I really am impressed that that's really at the core of what we're doing. So we were going to continue to play outdoors. We had an outdoor holiday concert set, and the weather turned not great. So we just decided, okay. And if you have looked at us online at all, then you'll know that we've done now 2 virtual concerts. And we have our third one next Friday, 7 p.m. on Facebook. They're free. And we will be here live chatting with people, but we do everything ahead of time. And we don't get to rehearse any of this stuff because of COVID. So as you're watching either tonight or next week, just keep in mind that like this virus took everyone out, but it shouldn't stop you. So we have written over 60 new arrangements for horn quartet, 60 for horn quartet since last fall. Everything we've done virtually, we have not played together, save for, I think, Rainbow Connection on tonight's concert. We've played that one together. Everything else, everyone in the group is arranged, and we talk via Zoom, and then we record. We don't get to record with each other. So it's not perfect, but it's beautiful in its own way because we're getting to make music. So if you want to learn more about us, you can see us on Facebook. You can go to our website. You can ask any of us questions. You can send us emails. We love to like spread the word to just do it. Just make music. Just get out there. Don't wait for the perfect mic. Don't wait for the perfect time. We have now. If you have an idea, run with it.
Thank you so much. That's really inspirational. And I've put a link to your Facebook page in the chat for anyone who wants to go like that page so you don't miss their concerts. Hopefully some of those arrangements become available. That would be awesome. You all should think about that if you haven't already. Anybody who wants to stick around and ask any questions, feel free to do that. We're going to take a little break here for a minute. We need to sound check the concert hall before our masterclass with Andrew Bain starts in about 7 or 8 minutes. So thank you to the Rona Quartet for your great ideas about warm-up. I'm looking forward to your concert later today. I've already heard it. It sounds amazing. You guys are going to love it. So thank you so much. Thank you again for attending the 2021 Western Horn Festival. I look forward to many more years of hosting this event and hope you can join us in person next year. The Western Horn Festival was made possible with funding from the WIU Horn Institute, the WIU Bands Department, and attendees like you. If you'd like to make an additional donation to support future events, text HornFest to 41444.